There is a strange moment that happens after promotion. The most dangerous moment in your career might not be when you fail. It might be the moment you finally get everything you thought you wanted. Not when you get the email. Not when your manager congratulates you. Not when your family tells you how proud they are. But a few weeks later, when the excitement quietly leaves. When the new title becomes normal. When the bigger salary becomes another number. When the office badge still opens the same doors. And suddenly, why doesn't this feel the way I thought it would? You spent years moving towards something. Years believing that happiness was waiting one level higher. One promotion away. One achievement away. One title away. And now that you are here, the feeling is strangely absent. Not sadness. Not failure. Just a quiet emptiness. A silence where satisfaction was supposed to be. Most people never talk about this. Because from the outside, everything looks successful. The career is moving. The income is growing. The future appears secure. Yet inside, something feels unexpectedly disconnected. The promotion worked exactly as promised. It improved your status. It increased your opportunities. It changed how people see you. But it did not change the relationship you have with yourself. Modern life has taught people to think of happiness as a destination, a reward waiting at the end of effort, a psychological finish line. Work harder, sacrifice more, delay enjoyment, then eventually you arrive. But human psychology rarely works that way. The brain is designed for adaptation, not permanence. What feels extraordinary today becomes ordinary tomorrow. Neuroscientists sometimes refer to this phenomenon as hedonic adaptation, the tendency for people to return to a baseline level of emotional experience after positive or negative events. The new apartment becomes your apartment. The dream car becomes your car. The promotion becomes your job. An emotional high that once felt powerful slowly dissolves into familiarity. This is not a malfunction. It is part of being human. Yet modern society constantly encourages people to forget this. Every advertisement whispers the same message. You are one upgrade away from feeling complete. One purchase, one achievement, one milestone, one version of yourself, away from finally arriving. And because the promise feels believable, people continue chasing. Not because they are greedy, but because they are hopeful. Hope is powerful. Hope keeps people moving. But hope can also become a trap when it is permanently attached to the future, because then the present starts feeling like a waiting room. Life becomes preparation instead of experience. You stop living today because you are busy preparing for tomorrow. Then tomorrow arrives, and somehow it still feels incomplete. The modern professional world quietly amplifies this cycle. Success has become measurable, trackable, visible. There are numbers for everything. Salary, followers, subscribers, net worth, performance reviews, engagement metrics, professional rankings. Human beings have always compared themselves to others. But digital life transformed comparison into a permanent environment. For thousands of years, people compare themselves to a small tribe. Today, people compare themselves to millions. Every day, every hour, sometimes every minute. A promotion that once felt impressive can suddenly feel insignificant after 5 minutes of scrolling. Someone younger is making more money. Someone else bought a bigger house. Someone else seems happier. Someone else appears more successful. The comparison never ends because there is no final level. There is always another person, another achievement, another benchmark. And so a strange psychological contradiction emerges. People have more opportunities than previous generations, more convenience, more technology, more access to information. Yet many feel increasingly dissatisfied, not because life became worse, but because expectations expanded faster than reality. The mind adjusted to abundance and immediately started demanding more. This creates a subtle form of emotional exhaustion, a fatigue that is difficult to explain, because externally, everything appears fine. You continue functioning. You continue working. You continue achieving. Yet internally, the emotional rewards become weaker. The victories become quieter. The excitement becomes shorter. The motivation begins requiring larger and larger achievements to produce the same feeling, like emotional tolerance. The same way overstimulation affects attention, it also affects fulfillment. And perhaps this is why so many people feel strangely numb, not because they have no emotions, but because they are surrounded by too many emotional signals, notifications, messages, news alerts, videos, opinions, arguments, advertisements, predictions, content, an endless stream of information competing for psychological attention. The human nervous system was never designed for this level of stimulation. For most of history, life moved slower. Moments had space around them. Experiences had time to settle. Emotions had room to breathe. Today, even major life events can disappear beneath the next notification. A promotion announcement can be followed seconds later by an email, a text message, a news story, and 20 social media posts. The moment arrives, then immediately gets buried. Nothing lingers. And when nothing lingers, meaning becomes harder to feel. Because meaning often requires attention. Attention requires stillness. And stillness has become increasingly rare. But there is another consequence that few people notice. The more people focus on building successful careers, the more vulnerable they become to identity confusion. Because eventually a dangerous question begins to emerge. Who am I if I am not my work? At first, the question seems harmless. Then one day, something changes. A project ends. A role changes. A company restructures. A promotion arrives and somehow changes nothing inside. And suddenly you realize that much of your identity was built around professional progress. The title became the self. The performance became the self. The achievements became the self. Imagine waking up tomorrow with every achievement still intact. The same salary, the same title, the same success, and yet having no idea who you are without it. But achievements are unstable foundations. They constantly require updating, maintaining, defending, and this creates a hidden form of anxiety. Because if your worth depends on achievement, rest begins to feel threatening. Slowing down feels dangerous. Being ordinary feels uncomfortable. You become responsible not only for your work, but for constantly proving your value. The result is a quiet psychological burden, one carried by millions of people, many of whom appear perfectly successful. The loneliness that emerges from this is particularly strange because it often exists in crowded places, busy offices, professional events, group chats, video calls, social platforms. People have never been more connected, yet many have never felt more emotionally unseen. For some people, the loneliest moment of the day isn't being alone. It's being surrounded by people and realizing nobody truly knows them, because connection and exposure are not the same thing. Being visible is not the same as being understood. People know your job title, your accomplishments, your professional image, but very few know your fears, your confusion, your uncertainty, the questions that appear late at night when everything becomes quiet. The loneliness of modern life is not always physical isolation. Sometimes it is emotional invisibility, the feeling that your public identity has become stronger than your real identity. And perhaps this explains why so many successful people experience hidden despair. Not dramatic despair, not the kind portrayed in movies, something much quieter. The feeling of functioning while feeling disconnected from meaning, moving while feeling emotionally stationary, achieving while wondering why fulfillment remains distant. The world often assumes that suffering disappears when success arrives. But psychological reality is more complicated. Success solves certain problems. Financial stress can decrease. Opportunities can increase. Security can improve. These things matter. They matter enormously. Yet human beings do not survive on stability alone. They also need purpose, belonging, connection, identity, meaning. And when those needs remain neglected, achievement alone cannot compensate. This is why promotions sometimes stop making people happy. Not because promotions are bad, not because ambition is wrong, but because people often expect achievement to solve problems that belong to entirely different parts of the human experience. A promotion can improve your career. It cannot automatically create friendship. It cannot create self-understanding. It cannot heal loneliness. It cannot answer existential questions. Those require something else, something slower, something deeper, something increasingly uncommon in the modern world. Attention, presence, honest reflection, the willingness to sit quietly with yourself without immediately reaching for distraction. Because beneath all the noise, beneath the goals, beneath the endless pursuit of more, there remains a simple truth about being human. People do not merely want success. They want significance. They want to feel connected to something larger than performance metrics and professional milestones. They want relationships that survive beyond usefulness. Conversations that go deeper than updates. Moments that feel real. Moments that cannot be measured. Perhaps happiness was never hiding inside the next promotion. Perhaps it was hiding in the parts of life that promotions were never meant to replace. The friend you forgot to call. The evening you rushed through. The family dinner interrupted by work emails. The quiet moments you postponed while building a future. Because one day, after all the promotions have arrived, after all the goals have been achieved, after all the titles have changed, a different question may remain. Not how successful was your life, but how present were you inside it? And maybe that question matters more than we realize, because careers eventually end. Titles eventually disappear. Achievements slowly become memories, but the experience of being human remains. The ability to connect, to care, to feel, to notice, to be fully awake to the brief and fragile experience of being alive. And perhaps that is why the emptiness after success feels so unsettling. It is not a sign that something is broken. It is a reminder that beneath ambition, beneath achievement, beneath every promotion and every accomplishment, there is still a human being searching for something deeper than success. Not more status, not more recognition, not another title, just a life that feels genuinely lived.